Welcome back to another React video. We're going to get right into it, as always, checking out some videos. Some are submitted by y'all, so thank you for sending videos to us. So we're going to check them out and give feedback training-wise. So let's get going. Random dog attack women in New York for no reason. Apparently no reason, allegedly no reason.
Oh my God. Slam the door. Slam the door. Yo, what the fuck? Oh, nah. Nah, bro,
Don't get out. Don't get out. Don't get out. Please do not get out. Please do not get out.
Slam that.
Please do not get out.
Yo, get him. Get him. Oh my God, he getting in the car. Yo, bro, what the fuck?
Oh, shoot.
Oh. Nah, what the fuck? Who dog is that?
Yo, please.
Yo, hit the dog.
No way.
Oh, yo, hit the dog.
No way.
Oh my God, what the fuck?
No way.
Golly. What the heck? Oh, gosh.
Slap the dog. Slap him.
Yo,
It's coming at them now.
Yo.
Nah, you gotta run that over, bro.
Yo.
We don't know how this started. For some reason, they're outside of their car, and then this one dog, the dog latches on to the one lady. She's trying to get back into her car, and every time it's gripping on their hands. And the dog, tail up, tail wagging, so that's just that sign of dominance, confidence, and arousal. The caption says, for no reason, attacked for no reason, but there's always a reason why this started. So I'm curious as to why they're out of their car to begin with. But what are you going to do in this case if this is you? What are you going to do? If you're the guy sitting in the car recording, you know, are you going to get out and help? What are you going to do? These ladies are screaming. They got blood-curdling screams. It's extremely painful. If you've never been bit by a dog before, it can be extremely painful. It can cause serious damage. But ideally in this case, you got to somehow get something around this dog's neck, right? So the dog has the lady's hand, and they're just kind of running around. They think they're going to go back to their car. You know, I'd be grabbing with my other hand underneath that dog's neck. I'd be grabbing the neck and squeezing until that dog lets go. But if you do that, that dog could redirect onto you, right, in a different sense, which I think would happen based on what I'm seeing with this dog. Ideally, you get like a leash around the neck, and you put the leash through the handle, so it's like a slip lead, and you just tighten that down, you know, essentially choking out the dog. Or you can get a belt. You can take a belt off, wrap it around the dog's neck, tighten that down until the dog passes out, essentially, you know, and then you can put it in a trunk or something until you can kind of contain it, figure out what's going on. There is one guy walking around with a 2x4. I mean, if this is happening, you know, hit the dog, do what you got to do to help the people out. But there's a lot of people just looking around and observing what's going on here. Nobody's stepping in to help, which is kind of weird, you know, not ideal. But yeah, so just imagine this is you. What are you going to do if this happens to you? Take off your belt, put it around the dog's neck, tighten down. If you got a leash in your car, I always keep a leash in my truck. Of course, I'm a dog trainer, so I'm always going to have a leash around. But I'm going to get something, put it around that dog's neck so I can control the dog's neck, tighten it down, you know, until the dog releases or passes out, worst case scenario. Then try to retain control of that dog and figure out what is going on with this, right? So, and also, if you don't know if this dog has rabies, you're going to have to go get a rabies shot from the doctor.
Stop!
Oh, shit.
Come on.
Holy hell. We got some police officers on a chase. Got a bad guy up ahead in the Canine. They release the Canine, and the Canine grabs the police officer that's going to chase the bad guy, latched onto his arm. That's going to be some major damage right there. He's probably not going to be able to use that arm for a while. We need more training on the dog so that the dog understands, you know, who to actually target, right? If you're doing training with a police dog and you're sending the police dog, you know, there's different ways to kind of to think about it. But first of all, most police officers are wearing a particular uniform, so train the dog to not bite people that are in that uniform, right? Or run the dog ahead of get closer to the suspect, before you release the dog, right? So there's definitely some more training that needs to happen. Also, if you're in a chase like this and there's civilians around innocent people, you definitely don't want the dog running over and grabbing a hold of an innocent person. So you have to think about all these scenarios based on where you're working at, and train the dog specifically to these types of scenarios. So, not a good situation right here.
Submission.
It's a classic.
Okay. Good girl.
Classic Caesar Milan clip if you haven't seen it before. Yeah.
So you see, just a relaxation. It's an understanding.
So
I didn't see that coming.
if you haven't seen this
Sure,
clip
that's not
before,
submission.
there's a couple things going on here that I like to break down. First of all, I'm assuming he's working with this person and this dog over resource guarding, since they got the bowl of food in the yard and the dog's eating the food. And you can kind of tell when Caesar kind of comes up on the dog's guarding the food, so it's guarding body language. So instead of just, kind of pushing the dog off the food or slapping it in the neck, doing a poke in the neck to try and correct the dog to show it that that's your food or whatever, you're going to need to actually just take time and do repetitions of relationship building. So when the clip first starts, you can see that the dog is actually uncomfortable. The dog's actually uncomfortable, and then Caesar's basically like, hey, eat the food. He's standing right there. The dog actually starts eating, and then he's like, you know what? Wham! Hits the dog in the neck. Then the dog's freaking pissed, right? So we're creating a superstitious association to people around the bowl and around the food, right? So that's definitely not a good way to do that. It's not an ideal way to help the dog overcome this, So right here, Caesar's kind of looking at the dog eating the food. We can already tell the dog's on edge. It's kind of leaned back a little bit, but it's got its head stuck forward into the food bowl. Right here at the beginning, we see that it's nervous, right? It's looking around. It's looking to the side. And then it kind of goes for the food. So that's showing us that it's nervous. Starts eating the food. Caesar's like, hey, eat the food. He's kind of sitting here, taking the dominant stance over the dog, dominant body language, staring at the dog, crouched over the dog. Essentially, again, the dog's leaned back. Dog starts eating its food. And then it seems like so the dog starts eating the food. He's like, okay, let me step forward. So I know what he's thinking. He's like, I need to step forward, and I want to see that dog step back. He's looking for spatial pressure. The dog obviously doesn't care about the spatial pressure because the dog starts eating more vigorously if you watch the clip. And then, so what happens is as Caesar kind of gets closer to the dog and over the dog even more, the dog does a little snap at him. And that's why Caesar then went for the neck stab or whatever you want to call it. Stab the dog on the neck, shock the dog steps back. Caesar, the dog comes back again. Caesar's kind of holding his ground, moving forward, gets in front of the food, between the dog and the food, right? And then they're in kind of this lockdown right here. The dog's like displaying aggression, but holding itself back. Right, so it's more insecure, submissive type aggression versus dominant aggression. Dog doesn't know how to handle this. Dog, has developed resource guarding probably because of micro escalations of behavior over time. The dog's showing its teeth, it's licking its lips, licking its nose, so it's in conflict. Ears are back, it's in conflict, right? If its ears were forward, that'd be more dominance. But if the ears are back, it's kind of looking to the side, it's licking its lips, showing its teeth, kind of settling down. So then it settles down, and Caesar's kind of sitting there. He's like pointing out some things. I forget exactly what he says. He's like, oh, it's relaxed, right? He's like, it's relaxed. The dog looks at the camera. You can tell that its ears are kind of fluctuating. The fact that it's looking around, it's kind of laying there. I wouldn't call this relaxed. If I was sitting right there, first of all, I wouldn't be doing it this way, obviously. But if I was sitting right there, I'd be like, this dog's not relaxed, right? Dog looks around. Caesar goes to pet the dog or something, and the dog, snaps at him like, hey, don't touch me. Hey, don't touch me. And so then Caesar comes in to get closer again. The dog's like, you know what? You're not leaving me alone. So now it's time for me to escalate my behavior. So then the dog latches onto him. Latches onto him pretty good, right? It's actually a bite and hold. It's not like a snap and release. It's a bite and hold. He's gripping it. He is kind of crunching on him a little bit. Caesar tries to kick the dog, dude. Oh, yeah, finally the dog lets go. Then the dog's showing his teeth, and Caesar's like, I didn't see that coming. And I'm like, the whole time, you can see this happening, right? You can see this playing out. So real quick, I don't want to take up too much time on this, but let me just explain. This is not the way to train for this, right? There are a lot of things that Caesar does that I've seen that I'm like, okay, that's cool, but this is definitely a situation that's not ideal. And so what I would do, take your time. I would recommend to these people, like, hey, I need to take your dog for a couple weeks. I need to develop a relationship with the dog, right? And I need to communicate to the dog and teach the dog that, hey, I will reward you, right, for having a relationship with me, working with me. Once that relationship is established, that relationship is the foundation of everything training-wise. All the rehabilitation for this behavior is the relationship, right? Once that relationship is solid, then I'll start teaching the dog obedience. And instead of challenging it for its food, if I need to move it away from the food, I'll give it an obedience command. If it's eating and I say come, then the dog will stop eating, come to me, and then I can let it go back and eat its food, right? I've done a bunch of videos about this on our YouTube channel anyway. Next clip. As some of you know, Teddy has had issues since we moved and has chewed up my bed. All right, so let's see what this is about. Oh, this is like a Jack Pity. Holy dude. Have you seen this one? This pity's Jack, dude. It's like a pocket pity. Okay, I forgot to read this. No, it's a micro bully. I was just paying attention to the dog's anatomy. After speaking with the behavioral vet specialist and tricking Teddy a bit, we have been able to convert him from my bed to a rope. All right, so I don't really understand. As many of you know, Teddy has had issues since we moved and has chewed up my bed. All right, so if you got issues with the dog chewing up your bed, sure, you can give it something acceptable to chew on and teach it that. But we also have to teach the dog rules, boundaries, expectations. One of those rules, boundaries, expectations is like, hey, don't chew up furniture. Don't chew things that are not yours in the house. So that is something that we have to actually teach our dog not to do, right? Of course, it's fine to redirect them like they did onto a rope, but at the end of the day, you do want to teach that behavior. I do want to read some of these comments. Get this dog a spring pole set up ASAP. That's a good idea, spring pole. That's just for energy, right? There's multiple people that said spring pole, spring pole, spring pole. And that's basically a pole. You put it in your yard. It's got like a tug and a string on the end of it, and the dog grabs a hold of that, and it kind of moves it for the dog. But you could also just play with tug yourself. Let's normalize fulfilling dogs' needs. That's true. And that could, dogs' needs are daily physical, mental exercise.
Okay, just take it.
Okay, take it.
So that's what you
You
do.
redirected and bit the shoe. So the trainer,
Take it, 'cause it hurts so bad.
I don't really understand. The trainer took off her shoe. So she's the customer.
Oh, he's like very, oh no, ow, ow, ow.
So
Oh,
the
he goes
dog
to your foot,
is,
too.
the trainer's recording this. The dog is pulling the shoes off of the owner.
Yeah, that's pretty common. He doesn't usually go for my foot right after, but he wants it.
He really wants it.
Reacting at another dog off in the distance.
Are you prepared for the shoe?
Are you prepared for the shoe? Dog's coming for the shoes. Dog's coming for the shoes.
Yep.
Back to the
Going
shoe.
for the
Like,
shoes.
Every
Not going for the trainer shoes, though, from what I can tell.
3 a.m. just because the dogs will be out.
Going for the owner shoes, not the trainer shoes. So, a couple thoughts that come to my head. They just jumped to my head. This trainer
what you
did
do.
write
You
a
just
long
give them
caption. I did try to read it, but it's just super long. I guess what we're seeing here, what the trainer's trying to show is what the dog's doing. So the dog has some kind of, I would call it an obsession with going for the owner shoes, right? He does it constantly throughout the video, whether they're just hanging out in this sidewalk or whether there's a dog and another person in the distance. The dog was reacting at the people in the distance, and it turns around, comes after the shoes. As the dog's coming for the shoes, the owner's kind of dancing. That's going to instigate prey drive. That's going to instigate, going for your feet. Again, I'm not seeing the dog do this to the trainer. It's doing it to the owner, which means, in my perspective, this is a conditioned behavior. The owner has unintentionally, and she's laughing when this is happening, and it is one of those things like, hey, this is annoying, but I'm laughing because what else am I supposed to do, right? They don't know what to do. So in my perspective, this is a conditioned behavior. What happened was a dog went for the shoe at some point, maybe when it was a puppy, and they thought it was funny. They thought it was cool or whatever. Maybe they played with it, and now it's escalating over time. And the more that the dog goes for the shoes, the more the lady moves her feet away quickly, the more of a game it becomes to the dog. And now it becomes a conditioned behavior to, hey, anytime that I'm frustrated, anytime that I'm aroused, anytime that I'm excited, I'm just going to go for these shoes, right? So that's what's happening with the dog. So you have to break that sequence of events, right? If that dog is going for the shoe, you have to break the sequence of events. And that's going to take time. And every time the dog gets the shoe, like it has right here where I'm watching, it's carrying it around. It's chewing on it. The dog's also going for her feet. But anytime the dog gets the shoe and carries it around, that is a reward. That's reinforcing the behavior. So you have to stop that behavior from getting reinforced, but you have to walk your dog. So that means you're going to have to do some leash corrections for going for your shoe. And then ideally you start working on engagement. You want to get some engagement, some eye contact going. That way the dog can learn to pay attention to you instead of the shoe, right? So that's what needs to happen here. We got a video. Dog's got a nice platter in front of him. Goose mince. Pretty sure this is a pressa. Lamb testicle. Mutton leg steak. Turkey breast. Giant dog. Duck wing. Gooseneck. I like listening to the dogs eating. It's fun. Mackerel and sardine. Chicken and chicken foot. Oh, baby chick. Chick and chick foot. Broccoli. Interesting he ate the broccoli. I'd spit that out. Rabbit ear. Ate the broccoli before all the meats. That was interesting. 157 grams of protein in one meal. I wonder if this guy eats, this guy feeds his dog once a day. So this guy, he's got a cool YouTube. I've seen some of his other videos before. But he lays out his dog's food all in a platter, obviously raw food. He's put this together himself. Organ meats, different meats, things like that. But if you watch how the dog eats, dogs, they just shred and gulp, right? That's how dogs are designed to do. So this dog just literally, you can see it grabbing these huge chunks of meat, the gooseneck, grabs it and shoves it down its throat, right? Then it's going straight to the stomach and getting processed down there. So, this brings up a good point. This guy's obviously feeding his dog very optimally. He's having a wide range of optimal raw foods for his dog, just prey diet, like dogs were designed to eat because they are carnivores, right? And the broccoli is an interesting thing. Normally, most dogs are going to, like carnivores, are going to get their micronutrients from vegetables based on their prey's stomach, right? So if the prey had eaten, broccoli, for example, that would be in the stomach. And then the dog would get the broccoli through the stomach of the prey. But anyway, super interesting to watch. And it's also interesting to watch the dog's order of eating. It might have eaten in that order on purpose, or it's just gulping food down as it sees it, because it's so conditioned to this. Because he obviously had the dog sitting there. The dog was waiting, I'm assuming, for him to set this down or prepare it. And then he gives a command and the dog starts eating. So super cool, super fun to watch. And with that being said, that brings me up to a good point that we recently did a dog food tier list video on YouTube where we broke down 27 dog foods, raw food, fresh food, kibbles. We learned a lot about kibble putting that video together. Check out that video on YouTube, the dog food tier list, if you want to learn the optimal food to feed your dog and how to make good choices on what kibbles to select if you're going to use a kibble. So if you want to watch that video, you can check it out right here, and I'll see you there.